أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين اجعل خير عمرنا آخرة وخير عملنا خواتمة وخير أيامنا يوم نلقاك فيه يا أرحم الراحمين. Firstly and foremost, inshallah, I would like to we need to give extreme shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where many of the Sahaba and the dua of the Prophet would say, Allahumma ballighna Ramadan, Allahumma ballighna Ramadan. Ya Allah, give us the chance to see one more Ramadan. The Sahaba, after Ramadan would finish, that they would spend nights praying and in tears to say, Allah, give us one more chance for this blessed month, the month where the Quran was revealed, the month where rewards are multiplied, the month where we have a hadith mentioning from the Prophet ﷺ, أوله رحمة ووسطه مغفرة. وسطه means the meaning. There's some riwayat, there's some differentiations here. And وآخره نجاة من النار وعتقة من النار. And the end of the last 10 days of Ramadan is the emancipation or the freeing from the hellfire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those that successfully complete Ramadan with all three of these, inshallah, ticked off. And in saying this, alhamdulillah, we are here as a blessed gathering in a group, and we welcome all of our esteemed guests and our esteemed Ustadhs that have come in and joined us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your sacrifices, your time away from your families to come in and to learn more about the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this blessed month. This is where, as well, there's a hadith from Bukhari and Muslim. It mentions about that these majalis, these gatherings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Prophet ﷺ mentions in the hadith that when these gatherings happen to remember the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah mentions that وَحَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. وَحَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ means that the angels surround them and they make istighfar and they ask Allah to forgive those people of these gatherings that come to remember the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another analogy that Prophet ﷺ gives is that he mentions that these majalis that we have now, that it is the reverse of hayat al-dunya, looking up into the skies. What does that mean? What this means is that when we look up into the skies, we see the beautiful stars and the beautiful moon and our galaxy and Milky Ways. In reverse, the Malaika look down on this earth and they see shining stars, bright lights that come forward and they reach the heavens. And these are the majalis, these are these gatherings that come to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that come to remember the book of Allah, that come to remember Nahar al-Qiyamah, the day of judgment. And this leads into now our continuation of Tafseer of Juz Amma. With Tafseer Juz Amma, we've started with Surah an-Naba, and we spoke about the different themes of this surah. The first theme was, they were asking about what? Amma yatasa'alun, the mushrikeen, and this is something that will continuously be asked until the day of judgment, that is this truly a day that's going to happen, this day of judgment or day of resurrection? Allah responds to them in verses 6 to 16 by what? Proving His ability. The one that did this, the one that created the heavens and the earth, the ones that created you from nothing, the one that brought you from a drop of water into this amazing being, can He not bring you back again? Bala. Then on top of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then from verses 17 to 20, He describes the day of judgment. And then in doing so, when this day of judgment occurs, He now goes into describing the punishment of the deniers, the disbelievers. And then we went through those verses, and today we'll be continuing from verses 31 to 40, now describing the reward of the believers. Now, before we go into describing the reward of the believers, and I do remember last lesson was quite intense. It talks about the description and the punishment of those that enter Nahar Jahannam and those that denied. And we said that this was what? Jaza'an wifaqa, that it is a fitting recompense and it is only from their own wrongdoing. Allah does not force anyone into Nar Jahannam. If anything, Allah's maghfirah and rahmah is opened. He says, if you come to me with a world full of sins, I would come back to you with a world full of maghfirah. The key is for us just not to deny this day of judgment. So now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to read from a few verses from Surah Al-A'raf. I'm reading from verse 44 to 45 and the verse 50 to 51. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ونادى أصحاب الجنة أصحاب النار أن قد وجدنا ما وعدنا ربنا حقا فهل وجدتم ما وعد ربكم حقا قالوا نعم فأذن مؤذن بينهم اللعنة الله على الظالمين الذين يصدون عن سبيل الله ويبغونها عوجا وهم بالآخرة كافرون. Now Allah says, He mentions in Surah Al-A'raf that there's going to be a bit of a dialogue. And this dialogue, what this dialogue talks about is that when before we all of us enter our dwellings, which is either what? Jannah or Jahannam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of all of those that enter Jannah bi-idhnillah. So what happens is He says that the dwellers of Jannah, they call out to the people of Now, that they say to them what? That we found the promise of our Allah, of our Rabb to be true. Now have you found the promise of your Lord to be true? They say to them, قَالُوا نَعَمْ. They say yes. The word na'am means yes. فَأَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ. And then there'll be a cry or there'll be a signal or an adhan. فَأَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ بَيْنَهُمْ اللَّعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ. That truly the curse of Allah be upon those oppressors that we mentioned in the previous verses. That they did what? That they would mislead and they would set people astray from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also on top of that, وَيَبْغُونَهَا عِوَجًا. The word عِوَجًا means a'waj, means crooked. And this mentions a lot to do with the people of the book and even scholars within Islam that were basically sort of paid out or bribed or in a way to distort the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and set people and misguide them. And then here, وَهُوَ بِالْآخِرَةِ كَافِرُونَ. And they are people that deny the akhirah. Now what happens is then the people of Nar Jahannam call out to the people of Jannah. Ulama say that we won't see, many ulama mentioned that we don't see the dwellers of Jahannam, inshallah, that we are all dwellers of Jannah. We don't actually see their punishment because they say the scene of the punishment is a punishment in itself. It will be so severe. But what happens is we know here that there will be calling between one another. So we'll be hearing. So this hearing is what? There's going to be a dialogue. It talks about now they call out to the people of Jannah. وَنَادَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ أَصْحَابَ الْجَنَّةِ أَنْ أَفِيضُ عَلَيْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ أَوْ مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهِ. That please bring down to us some relief, some water, or anything that Allah has given you. So as we mentioned before, those that in this hayat al-dunya, they used to laugh and used to make fun of the believers and mock and take advantage. This day they'll be asking for some relief. But the answer will be what? قالوا, what would be the answer? That قالوا إن الله حرمهما على الكافرين. This day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not allow any of this to come down to you. Why? Because they took الذين اتخذوا دينهم لهوا ولعبا. They took this matter of this deen, they did not take it seriously. لهوا ولعبا means they took it like a form of jest, form of mockery and a form of play. And on top of that, that they used to make fun of the believers. وَغَرَّتْهُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيا. They let this world deceive them. فَالْيَوْمَ نَنْسَاهُمْ. This is a beautiful ending from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I thought we'll end with this to transition into now the Ashab al-Jannah. That فَالْيَوْمَ نَنْسَاهُمْ كَمَا نَسُوا لِقَاءَ يَوْمِهِمْ هَذَا. that today we will do what? We will forget them just like they forgot this day, this true day. وَكَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَجْحَدُونَ. And they were not those that took these, our ayat, our messengers and our miracles as something that is serious. Rather, they took as a form of a joke and mockery. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now will forget those that forgot this important day. Inshallah, this is none of us. And inshallah, we keep instilling this reminder amongst us and our children and family and loved ones that this day is a reality. This day of facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a reality and is a true thing. So inshallah, we're going to go now into verses 31 to 40, and this is the last page. So if you all turn to the last page of Surah an-Naba, and you also have your books, what we're looking at now, we're looking to theme 5, and this is talking about verses 31 to 40, and it describes now the reward of the believers and a final conclusion. Now, what I want you to do, and this is how a lot of us, when we'll be taught, they mentioned this, that we want you to now think about yourself prepping up for a very, very fancy holiday. So it might be a couple of weeks on a cruise. It might be out, we're going out to a beautiful island, going out on a boat. I'm sure if Ustadh Nez is on the group who understand going out on a beautiful boat, on a beautiful island, going out for a nice fishing trip. So what you need to do is when you going out on this trip or preparing for this trip, there's a few things that you need to get prepped up. So what do you need? And you need to know that when we're going in looking at reviews, you're looking at certain things. So what are we looking at? We look at what is the location? So what is the location? Number 2, the food that will be available. And I'm sure a lot of us have done some travel, and a lot of us take that very seriously when it comes to reviews. 3, good company. 4, drink. And 5, nothing to wreck the experience. And I'm sure a lot of us, and I speak of this personally, is that sometimes I've been out on the water and in the most beautiful places around the Great Barrier Reef, but we've been stuck in a storm. A storm comes out of nowhere and it destroys the whole experience. So now what we want to do is I want you to now take note of this. So these 5 things are what? Again, if you can take note, a beautiful location, food, good company, drink, and nothing to destroy your experience. And it can even be someone they actually travel with that destroys the experience. So take note, and as we go through these ayat and verses, you'll see how these 5 intertwine into the remaining verses of Surah an-Naba. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions now, إِنَّ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ مَفَازًا. What is it? Surely for the God-fearing, those that feed this day, those that look forward to meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is mafaza. And this is what? This is the ultimate success. So everything we want to succeed, if we want true success, all of us want success. This is part of our nature. We want to be successful people. But the true success is the ones that are successful on this day. This is how we gauge true success. And this word is mafaza. So let's keep going. So now, حَدَائِقَ وَأَعْنَابًا. Now we're going to go in. So we just spoke about what? The good location. It's now a private, we're going to be in private dwellings, private gardens, a private villa in our words today. So a lot of us, if we do trips, you like to go out, we might want to book a nice private villa that has a private pool, private residence, no one coming in to disturb us. This is, and we all know, private villas are quite expensive when you want to book in a holiday. So Allah says, حَدَائِقَ, private gardens and dwellings, وَأَعْنَابًا. Now he comes in what? The food part. A'naba means the vineyards. And vineyards are what? Vineyards now talks about, a lot of it comes from grapes. And this was something very special at the time amongst the Arabs, especially because they were desert dwellers, and they used grapes for what? We'll mention it later. For example, alcohol or making alcohol, especially wine. This will be a drink in Jannah, but it won't be something that is intoxicant. It doesn't cause intoxication. The next one, وَكَوَاعِبَ أَتْرَابًا. So these, they will also be accompanied with what? Beautiful spouses. So both, and this in other ayat, it talks about the spouses is both ends, so both male and female. Now there's many ahadith that mention that when we enter Jannah, a husband won't recognize his wife, but will recognize his wife, and vice versa. So how does that make sense? He will not recognize her, but will recognize her. That they say that the beauty that his wife will have, or the husband will have, if a wife is looking at her husband, she won't recognize him. She won't recognize him from the beauty that Allah has given that partner. But they recognize each other from the ilham Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives. It's just like when we enter Jannah, it's like we're going to know, like all of us might think, how do I know where my house is? Or where's my private villa in Jannah? Allah will give us ilham. The word ilham is that intuition to know where our dwelling is. It's like we've known it forever. So this, you will be having beautiful partners, and including your existing partners. So those, for us that now, so you might think for now that you look at your partner as being the most beautiful thing. But on the Day of Judgment, they say that when we enter Jannah, that a man will look at his wife and will stop in awe and will spend roughly 400 to 500 years just looking at how beautiful she is. And that will also be vice versa, the other way around. The beauty that everyone will be given, it will be something exceptional. And on top of that, that on the Friday marketplace, that every day on Yom al-Jum'ah, on Friday, there will be a marketplace where they say that our resemblances and our faces will take new forms every single week. And on top of that, the Yom al-Jum'ah is a special day for believers, because we believe as mu'mineen, we will be seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's part of our aqidah. And through a hadith, it mentions that Yom al-Jum'ah, the day of Friday, Allah will expose himself and he'll show himself to the dwellers of Jannah. And they say there is no greater ecstasy for a believer than this day. So we'll keep going. And equal in age, as in they will be equal in atraba means equal in age, so they will be equal. Some say that will be at the age of 33 years old. Others say a little bit younger, but most scholars have mentioned that the age of 33 is the most correct. Allahu a'lam. We'll keep going. وَكَأْسًا دِهَاقًا. Now we're speaking about the drink. وَكَأْسًا دِهَاقًا is an overflowing cup. The dihaqa is something to overflow. What that means is that we'll never worry about our drinks running out. You know, they say, for example, you know, today's drinks are on tap, which means it's never ending. This will be happening in Jannah. لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا. Another very important thing that destroys a lot of good holidays or good experiences is what? That we don't hear useless talk, or we don't hear things that is going to annoy us. And I'm sure most of us have had this experience. We might be at the best holiday or the best place, but we just have that one person that just irritates us and says the wrong things and is talking about stuff we just don't want to hear about. So this, take heed and know that the glad tidings is that in Jannah, there is not going to be that annoying person. We'll keep going, inshallah. Now, next we're going in, جَزَاءً مِّن رَبِّكَ عَطَاءً حِسَابًا. This one we had before, جَزَاءً وِفَاقًا, to the dwellers of fire or hellfire. Now the dwellers of Jannah, جَزَاءً مِّن رَبِّكَ عَطَاءً حِسَابًا. Now look at the difference. The other one says جَزَاءً وِفَاقًا. Simple, just a fitting recompense. Now here, Allah says, جَزَاءً from who? Mir Rabbika. Now Allah brings his attributes and he attaches himself to who? To the believers. Ata'an hisaba. Min Rabbika ata'an hisaba. And what is it? Just like the other one was a fitting recompense, this is a fitting what? Gift and blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those believers that are truly deserving of this dwelling. We'll keep going, inshallah. So now, if we summarize basically verses 31 to 36, What we have here is, this is talking about what? The amazing scene of the dwellers of Jannah. And we have a beautiful scene of those that were people that were conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They remembered that there is going to be a day that we're going to face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were the ones that kept to the boundaries of Allah. We don't say we don't make mistakes, but if we made mistakes, we turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we try to limit ourselves from fulfilling our natural desires that goes against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In doing so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if you limit yourself, if you withhold from the desires that many people are going around and doing, and basically do whatever they like in this dunya and feel that they're going to get away with it, those that held themselves, and the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that this hayat dunya is like a sijnul mu'min, is a prison for a believer. It's basically that Allah is going to now say to you, you are in eternity of bliss. And in Jannah, the eternal aspect is that it says it just gets better and better and better. In reverse, in hellfire, it will get worse and worse and worse. And this is an infinite regression, or an infinite continual excitement and ecstasy that will be continuously felt by the believers in Jannah, inshallah. Now, verse 37, what we have here is, from the Lord. So this is talking about what all of this is deserving for who? رَبِّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا الرَّحْمَنِ. So from the who? From the Lord of the heavens and the earth and everything between them. Who? Ar-Rahman mentions again the merciful. No one will have the power to speak to him. Now, even here, guys, the mentioning of Jannah, even this, guys, is a form of rahmah. We believe as mu'mineen, no one enters Jannah through what? Our own deeds. And we all know the story. So if you want to circle this aspect, we all know the story that once a pious man from Bani Israel was a very strong worshipper, and he came to face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah asked him, do you want to enter with your deeds, or do you want to enter through my rahmah, my mercy? This abid, this very strong worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who loved Allah dearly, he didn't really understand the question. So he said, Ya Allah, through my deeds, I've done a lot of hard work, and I've prayed hard, and I've continually been someone that was obedient to you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they say that the hadith mentions that Allah took out one of his eyes and put it on a scale, and the other part was what Allah, for example, everything he did compared, so his deeds are on one aspect of the scale and his eyes on one. They say that the eye, just the eye itself, and not two, just the one, flung the rest of his deeds and basically disappeared. This shows the rahmah of Allah, that when Allah mentions, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا, that if you were to count the blessings of Allah, you will not be able to do so. So as mu'mineen, we know and we have true yaqeen that we will only enter Jannah through the rahmah of Allah, not through our deeds. It doesn't mean that we don't work hard, and we don't strive, and we don't try our best, and we stay within the limits of Allah. But we know as true believers that we will enter through the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this gives hope to many people out there. And this is something we want to keep pushing out, that the rahmah, the doors of the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are always opened, and He was always welcoming for whether a believer or a disbeliever, that inshallah we can encourage to become a believer. And Allah will forgive all his sins. لا يملكون منه خطابا. No one would dare to have a say on this day except who? The one that is truly powerful. The true powerful is the king and the owner of this day, which is who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this does what? This puts a bit of ease, especially for those believers in history that were under a lot of oppression by tyrannical leaders. And you'll know, guys, if anyone has ever spoken, like I teach a lot of refugee students, for example, in my high school, a lot of them suffer a lot of trauma. And the trauma is around tyrannical leaders that have oppressed them. This day, it's like giving relief to the believers to say no one will speak except who? Except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So no tyrant, no one else will be able to say a word. يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الرُّوحُ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ صَفًّا. that the day what? The day يقوم الروح, on the day when the ruh, who's the ruh? The ruh is mentioned in many aspects in the Quran, and he is a special angel named Jibreel. يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا. And this comes also in many ayat where Allah mentions the malaika and he mentions a ruh. Why? Because even though Allah loves his malaika and loves the creation of the angels, the specific mention is to Jibreel, to bring his status up. And you might say, why do we bring this status up? And we might do this a lot even with our students. I might mention, for example, everyone amongst this class, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you of the esteemed guests. Also, brother Imad, the tank, Allah yahmi, for example. So now here, why do we do this for Jibreel? He was one. He was in charge of revelation. So he had a big task. He was also in charge, and this is again, we keep talking about what makes people great, what makes pieces of paper great, or a month great, or an angel great, is the association with the Quran. Jibreel brought down, him bringing down the Quran makes him of the highest esteemed angels. And he was what? He was Shaykh, the Shaykh of who? Of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He was his direct teacher. So, tamam? So for example here, يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا. They'll be coming, standing in rows. And I want you to guys keep this in mind and want you to try to imagine this as much as possible. They will not speak. لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا. And no one will be able to speak except who Allah gives permission to speak. إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا. And they will only say what is right. What does that mean? And they'll only say what is right. This goes back to, for example, when we've been asked, it's who's going to be speaking? It's not this part. What will speak on the Day of Judgment are these. So this will speak. For example, our eyes will speak. Our ears will speak. Our hands, our legs. And this will only be given accurate descriptions and analysis of what you did in your life. And on top of that, a book will come forward explaining every single detail that you did in your life. We believe as Muslims there is full-time surveillance on us, and we have the two angels that are always writing down our deeds. Verse 39 goes, ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمُ الْحَقِّ. Again, Allah mentions this is the day of ultimate truth. There is no denying this day. It will happen. And Allah mentions in other ayat, this day will happen just like we come, just like the scene of us in front of us will be seeing this day. فَمَنْ شَاءَ اتَّخَذَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ مَآبًا. Again, the word ma'aba comes. So whoever wishes should take the way back to their Lord. Now what we have here, إِنَّا أَنذَرْنَاكُمْ عَذَابًا قَرِيبًا. Allah mentions now, and He's now concluding. We have what? We have warned you, not only through the Quran, but through previous scriptures and previous messengers. I have warned you over and over again. O son, O daughter, as parents, you might give the same. O son, stop hanging out with this person. O son, stop dealing with this aspect. O son, stop selling haram things. You're going to end up in jail or you're going to end up shot. We keep can I have 2 minutes? Yeah, so we got to continuously do this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does this for us. And then what happens here is He says here, يَوْمَ يَنْظُرُ الْمَرْءُ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاهُ. I've indeed warned you of an approaching torment on the day when every person will see what their own hands have sent ahead of them. And the disbeliever will say, woe to me, if only I were dust. And this is important and very, very important here. The mentioning of I wish I were dust, there's some differences of opinion here. But this one, it says here, for example, that the humans will look at the animals on the Day of Judgment. The animals also get tested and trialed. What they do, they look at each other. We'll look at the animals, they get tested, but then they get turned into dust. They don't enter any dwellings. So the kafir, when he sees this, will say, Ya Rab, I wish I was dirt or dust. And now on top of this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now ends this, inshallah. يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة إن أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه. And again he mentions that it's only what your hands have brought forward. وَيَقُولُ الْكَافِرُ يَا لَيْتَنِي كُنْتُ تُرَابًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this surah in this beautiful aspect and concluding this surah in a beautiful manner. So what we have here, what is the purpose of this surah? So the purpose of this surah, and especially for us today, is to highlight now the importance of this day, the day of judgment. And also the importance of that we are going to be judged for our deeds that we do in this life. It also, what it does is also motivates us to rectify our lives. If we are living a life that is away from knowing that we're going to face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we need to make the change now. It's never too late. And on top of this, this also gives relief and comfort to the believers that all those oppressors that have gone and done whatever they do and continuously do and plot and plan will not be forgotten and will be given their due recompense on this day. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. We end that with a dua for that surah, and I say alhamdulillah rabbil alameen because this is a great ni'mah that we're able to go through one of a beautiful surah from the Makki surah, Surah an-Naba. Inshallah, what we're going to do now is we're moving on to the next surah, and that is Surah an-Nazi'at. And what this is another Makki surah. There's going to be a few themes that we go through. There's 7 themes. And the first major themes is looking at oaths by Allah and why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make oaths. Now what we have here, we're going to go through وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا وَالسَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا فَالسَّابِقَاتِ سَبْقًا فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا. Now what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this wa, or fa, this is all a form of oath, making an oath. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making an oath. Why is it important for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make an oath, and especially addressing the Arab? What happened here is at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was grabbing the attention of the mushrikeen and the people that were around him and the ones that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was giving message to, he would make an oath to grab their attention. And this happens a fair bit in the Quran. And this is an example of Allah now using oaths, and also an oath as a question and an oath as an answer. So we'll go through those inshallah now. So now, وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا وَالسَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا. All of these, you might hear, these are words that are quite difficult. So by those who are tear out violently the souls of the wicked. And it says here that especially those that die in disbelief, their soul doesn't want to leave this dunya. It does not want to leave this earth, so it clings onto the body. So what happens is the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith that they pull it out as if it's like a thorn branch getting pulled out of wool. So it's ripped out of the body, and they'll be suffering from when they're taking out the body. And then on top of that, another one, he says, وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا. Now the opposite is what? By those who pull out or draw out the souls gently. And this will be a character for the believers. وَالسَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا. And also those who glide along. And these are what? These are ones that go around and basically fulfilling the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know angels are made from light, so their travel is the speed of light. فَالسَّابِقَاتِ سَبْقًا. And those that race or move forward, and they're racing and moving forward doing what? Fulfilling the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا. And what they do here, then direct the affairs of the world. So basically going down from the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also reporting back to Allah. All of these verses are what? All of these mentions are of the angels. These are the sifat of the angels. So Allah is making an oath from the angels. What happens here? So there's qasam. So Allah is making an oath. So what is it? After this, what we now want to hear, okay, so if I'm an Arab dweller and I'm hearing all these oaths, it's like, okay, this is something quite serious. Something's coming next. What's coming next? يَوْمَ تَرْجُفُ الرَّاجِفَةُ. Allah now is bringing the attention again to the Day of Judgment. And they say, Juz Amma, if they will call it another name, they'll call it Juz Akhirah or Juz Nahar al-Qiyamah. So Yawma tarjufur rajifa. Now it mentions on the day when the first blow is given. And we mentioned before, this was from angel Israfil. Tatba'uha radifa. And the first blow and the second blow, we mentioned before, the first blow is it will kill everything that exists. And the second blow is to bring everyone back into the Day of Judgment. Tatba'uha radifa. And then again, the second blowing will be what will follow after the first blow, and that's the day where everyone will be brought forward on the Day of Judgment. قُلُوبٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاجِفَةٌ. He says here, some hearts on that day will do what? They will be trembling. Why will they be trembling? From the fear, and they know what will be happening on this day. And there's another ayah we mentions that will be mentioning. It mentions the word jathiyah. Jathiyah means that they will be falling weak at the knees. This day when it happens, and a lot of it, many of the sifat of the mu'mineen, they actually had this sifat even in dunya, that they'll be falling weak at the knees in this dunya. Why? Because of the fear of this day and the reverence that they had to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But on this day, no matter what, Allah says every single person will drop on their knees. And all of us have felt this when we feel scared, our hearts start to tremble and our knees give in. They can no longer help us stand. Now, what also keeps going? أَبْصَارُهَا خَاشِعَةٌ. That their eyes will be downcast. No one will be looking up. So, for example, if I'm in a school, the principal calls in a very urgent meeting, we all come in to that assembly. We see that it's quite a serious matter. Everyone's standing in front of that principal and their eyes down, especially if they know that there's something going wrong or they're in trouble for something. Like let's say someone's stolen a mobile phone or someone has done something in the school, some vandalism. They call out that group. That whole group, when they'll be looking, they'll be having their eyes down and in fear. Now what happens here is we move into the next theme, verses 10 to 12. Inshallah, we have 3 more minutes. Inshallah, we'll wrap this up. What we have here, يَقُولُونَ, this is now talking about quoting the mockery of the disbelievers and warning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against them. So now he's talking about what did they used to do to the believers. يَقُولُونَ إِنَّا لَمَرْدُودُونَ فِي الْحَافِرَةِ. This was many of the time the Prophet ﷺ, they'll go in and make mockery of him and laugh at him. Like we mentioned the story of the guy crushing the bone in his hand and blowing it in the air, and he's saying to the Prophet ﷺ, you're telling me when I turn into this, I'm going to be resurrected? That the disbelievers say, are we going to be brought back to our former laugh in a form of sarcasm? They're making fun. أَإِذَا كُنَّا عِظَامًا نَخِرًا. When we have turned into decayed bones. And this is a specific reference of this man mentioning to the what? To the Prophet ﷺ. It's like, for us, for example, it's like, we mentioned it today, it's like, come on man, you serious? You're telling me now a guy just died. And then what we do, he's basically crumbled into bones and he's going to come back into life. Come on. Now, next one here, قَالُوا تِلْكَ إِذًا كَرَّةٌ خَاسِرَةٌ. And then says again in a mocking manner, and they're making fun of the believers. Oh, truly. So you're telling me now I'm going to be this. I've done everything I like to do in this dunya, and I've lived my life full of desires. And then now I'm going to go be turned into dust and bone. And you're telling me now, قَالُوا تِلْكَ إِذًا كَرَّةٌ خَاسِرَةٌ. Truly, ha ha ha. If I were to be back, this will be a great loss in a form of what? Mockery. فَإِنَّمَا هِيَ زَجْرَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ فَإِذَا هُمْ بِالسَّاهِرَةِ. And we'll stop there because we're moving now into the story of Moses and Pharaoh. So فَإِنَّمَا هِيَ زَجْرَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. That it will only be, what does Allah respond to them? It will only be a single blast. فَإِذَا هُمْ بِالسَّاهِرَةِ. And they will be all above ground. And they will be all above ground. So inshallah khair, we'll finish it there. I'm here at the school and we need to actually leave the room, but it's actually good timing. Jazakallah khair. Allah yabarik fikum. Tomorrow, next lesson, we'll be continuing with the story of Musa alayhi salam. Barakallahu fikum. And inshallah we'll leave you there.